I'm really excited, honored, in fact, to be joined by my good friend Courtney YASMINEH. Welcome back to Back to the City, Courtney.
Thank you so much, Simon. Under such different circumstances, here we are.
Under such different circumstances. You've been on Back to the City twice before. Each of those, it was in different manifestations. So you came onto Back to the City in the first season, back when it was at Cyanet Radio in Christo Peters' garage. Then you came to the Minnehaha Recording Company, performed some songs from The High Priestess and The Renegade, and we had a really great conversation after your session at the Minnehaha Recording Company in my South Minneapolis home, where we focused on that record and also A Girl Called Sydney, your first novel. So yeah, let's begin actually with a little bit of a recap of some aspects of those two previous interviews that really struck me as I was returning to them. And then our main focus today, of course, is going to be on your upcoming record. What is the title of your upcoming record?
I've decided to use one of the song titles this time. So there was never a song called High Priestess and the Renegade. But this time there's a song called Red Roses and Cowgirl Dreams. And we're going with that because there are many roses and flowers in the album, in the lyrics. There's a bunch of stuff about roses and in several songs. And then I realized that there's this sort of cowgirl, old time idea about sort of a nostalgic idea about songwriting, very American sounding, more so than anything I've done before. And also getting out and like riding the range, like getting out on your horse and ride out into the countryside. And I felt somehow that tied in a lot for me with the album of cover songs that I put out in between called Songs from the Open Road, which has also a friend of mine said, oh, I know which one that is. That's your twangy album. So I would say that if Songs from the Open Road, most of the songs I didn't write, which are old songs from the 60s and 70s that mean a lot to me. But I would say that I sort of kept the twangy vibe, a very American vibe for these new songs.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a really special connection between those two records. We'll focus quite a lot on Songs from the Open Road as well. In Spanish Leather.
Yeah, the boots, bury me in boots of Spanish leather with John Prine's lyrics tattooed on my heart. And please tell Mr. Dylan he is forgiven for never acknowledging my love for him.
Yep, that's referencing Gone Away, in parentheses, married to Bob Dylan, which is an original song. Let's zoom in actually on those two songs for a moment. Gone Away, married to Bob Dylan, and Spanish Leather. And you've already highlighted that all of the songs on Songs from the Open Road have a special place in your heart, mean a lot to you. And these two original songs of yours, Gone Away and Spanish Leather, are really kind of encapsulating that and honoring those other songwriters. Perhaps with reference to these two originals of yours, either one or both, could you expand a bit more on, not only as a songwriter, but as a human being, what the impact of Bob Dylan and Cat Stevens and John Prine and all of the songwriters that you covered in the previous record, how they've impacted you and why it felt so right to honor them in that way with that previous record?
I think that as the time is going by, and I have this year had my 60th birthday, I think that, and with the pandemic happening, everything has become very sort of highlighted and precious to me, in a very in a very spiritual way. You know, the things that I've done in my life have, I think, instead of talking about like striving for success, which I would say was very much a part of my High Priestess and the Renegade time period, going to New York, touring everywhere, playing a lot of shows in Minneapolis, doing everything I possibly could. I feel that being able to take a more introspective look at it during the pandemic has allowed me to be very grateful, very appreciative from whence I have come, from where and from when I have come. And so I look at these songs that meant so much to me, and I think about why it meant so much to me to play the guitar and to learn songs. I mean, I could have been doing anything, and you know, any kid, any teenager could have been doing anything with their time, with or without an affluent situation. As you know, part of my childhood, there was affluence. And then my family lost everything. My father disappeared. I went to northern Minnesota and lived alone in a cabin. But there were still plenty of kids up on the Iron Range who were partying with their free time. And I wanted to play these songs. I wanted to learn these songs. The northern Minnesota radio station there was only one I could get in a little radio I had it when I was living in the cabin alone, the year of when I was 17 to 18. And many of these songwriters had songs on that kind of a radio station. It was like roots music in America. It wasn't necessarily like a Nashville country station, but it was very heartland, Bruce Springsteen, but also Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan, because it was northern Minnesota, and but also Dolly Parton and Nancy Griffith. And so I was hearing those songs during the most formative moment where I was sort of forged, like by the blacksmith holding the horseshoe over the fire. That was my moment, was that winter. And that was the soundtrack of that winter. And all I wanted was to be able to play those songs myself. I just wanted to. Who knows why I wanted to so badly, but that's what I wanted to do.
Yes. Let's take a journey through that previous record briefly. Let's zoom in on some of the qualities of some of those songs to get a sense of what they mean to you. And then I think that will nicely inform our journey through the new record as well.
Okay, great.
I think that Running from Mercy is such a powerful opener. It works so well. And I have some thoughts about, you know, what appeals to me about that song. But I'd like to give you an opportunity to share how that ended up being the opening track to that record and what it is about that particular song that
I know what to say about it. I know exactly what to say. The song from Ricky Lee Jones and a Minnesota native, Leo Kottke. This was a collaboration of theirs. That was the recording I first heard of Running from Mercy. And the opening line of that song is, little acts of kindness, little words of love, make our earthly home like heaven above.
Yes.
And there is no sorrow that heaven cannot heal. It abides in us with no cross and no crown. Now, I mean, I don't know what those guys, Ricky Lee Jones and Leo Kottke, what exactly they were saying, but in my mind, one thing was that they were saying you don't need religion or politics, the cross or the crown, to have your own access to heaven on earth.
Yeah, and it abides in us.
My idea is that what the song was about for me anyway, is that you can use kindness as a way to access heaven on earth. And this is very important to me, and more so every year of my life because I was not raised in a home where kindness was valued. What was valued was like being clever, being intellectual, but also being sarcastic, other things besides kindness. And I literally spent part of my adulthood thinking that kindness was overly sentimental or not very intelligent or something. That I had a bad idea. I had a wrong idea that I harbored from, I guess, from my family.
How did you come to realize that you harbored that idea and get to the point where you were reconnecting with your love for Running from Mercy, and then using that as a springboard to compose the new record, which is really celebrating love in a very similar way?
Yeah, I guess that I got an idea from playing the music for people. I got the idea that what I really wanted was to connect with people in a very sincere, heartfelt way. When the audience and I are all in tears at the end of a song, it doesn't matter whether I wrote the song or not, but when we're all looking at each other and I know that we're all saying, oh my God, what a great song. You know, when we're all like just ready to throw ourselves down on the ground and weep over what a great song it is. That was what I understood eventually that I liked the best. I love the rock songs and I love fun music. I love playing with a band. But what I honed in on was that I really wanted to continue to develop the really heartfelt, tender moments between myself and the audience, and that I wanted to write some songs that were from a sincere place in my heart, not just sort of fun, sort of flippant, sort of sassy.
How interesting, in light of the trajectory that we've been kind of reflecting on in the previous interviews as well. In our first one at the Cyanide Radio Garage, we began by focusing on the record Sufi Line and then Beautiful Lonely. Back then, you were saying that by the time you got to Beautiful Lonely, which came out in 2009, I saw the writing on the wall and I saw my feet of clay and I saw the error of my choices, and that was sort of the day of reckoning, you were saying. So then there was certain material that you kind of grappled with, and the song Stones is on that record. We were reflecting in that first interview, it was really interesting, on how then a lot of people would kind of gravitate towards that particular song. So there's a component of kind of, through being with your experience and channeling that pain, it was serving others in a way. So I'm bringing this up because of the connection, the theme of connection, and how being very emotionally present and vulnerable is what is facilitating that. But then what's so interesting for me in terms of reflecting on the trajectory is that you were then feeling that you didn't want to be kind of constrained to always be writing songs of that particular nature. So there's some real kind of self-discovery, self-exploration, and ownership of different aspects of oneself in the records after that.
My idea is that I've been in pursuit of ultimate personal freedom. I think that's what I've been in pursuit of as a musician. I've been trying to find the places, the way through that gets right to the heart of what means most to me and what means most to people who want to hear me sing, want to hear me perform. So I'm trying always to find these revelatory and these moments where everyone is reveling in the profound beauty of not necessarily my singing voice or my guitar playing, but in something that we've touched on by together looking at this song. I'm performing it, they're listening, and we're all standing in, usually it's ideal if we're in the same place, right?
Yeah.
And we're all saying, like I said before, my God, that song is so great that I wanted to throw myself down on the ground and weep. And I didn't think at the time when the song Stones came out, and people can easily find COURTNEY YASMINEH, the word Stones. There's some really good videos of it. There are good recordings of it. And so I wrote that song about very difficult, painful relationship with a man. And there's a passage that definitely sounds like it's violent passage in the song. And then there's a lot of very deep sadness to it. And I wanted to know as I went on, I'm a person who likes to have fun, and I'm a person who likes to be happy, and I really love performing. I love being with people. So, I mean, I really don't want to sing like songs about domestic violence for an entire concert. And yet I don't want to sing any songs that just seem very surface, superficial, just entertainment, fluffy sort of things. I don't want to sing any songs like that. So this leaves me with very limited choices, I found. And so in Songs from the Open Road, there are, for example, there are many songs. Every single one of those songs is super great because I don't think that when you listen to that whole album, like on a car ride, that by the end of it, you're devastated by the weight of the world. What I believe about that album, from what people have said to me from in Europe and in America, that by the end of that album, you've had a really interesting ride. And you have a lot to think about maybe from these different songwriters, but it's not a bummer. Yes. And I didn't want to be that kind of a songwriter myself. I like there to be a lot of fun, upbeat parts to the music, passages in the music. So it's a challenge to say, how am I going to do that? And also, like I said, that I wanted to really find a place of sincerity, because I had been I think my life has been wounded by bitterness and sarcasm and the ugly things. And also trying to be the kind of person who tells the ugly truth, who like always is going to point out the elephant in the room, because I didn't want anything to ever be false or artificial. But it's a very heavy burden to bear. And at 60, as a person who likes to have fun, I didn't want to write dopey songs, but I wanted us to be lifted up. I think it's a very difficult task to put yourself to.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Which is why I think it's so interesting to reflect on the complexity of it and the way in which you continue to evolve and recognize different aspects of yourself. And there is this consistent authenticity, throughout each of the records, but also a reinvention in light of this ongoing quest to be yourself. You were talking about the process of becoming yourself, even back in that first interview. And at the time you felt that it was from, I think, Red Letter Day, I think you felt was the record where there was a greater kind of integration of different parts of yourself. What are your thoughts on that now, on the idea of finding yourself through the different musical projects?
What really seems to matter to me the most is, as I think I taught some creative writing and literature to junior high and high school, like ages 13 to 18 or something. When I was in my 20s and early 30s, and I've done other grant projects with teens, and I found myself always gravitating towards the people who were having troubles, family troubles or emotional problems. And I think that I had the idea that your deepest heart is your inner child.
Yeah.
But in fact, your deepest place is not a place of world weary maturity. But in fact, that your deepest place of your heart is the pure soul that hasn't been wrecked and ruined by all the crap that's happened to you.
Yes.
And so I think that I've done a thing with people I've met who have very sad, sort of broken stories about themselves, and where I suggest to them that they find a picture of themselves from when they were little, even if they have to be only 1 year old or whatever it is, some little picture that maybe they have. And I'm always surprised that most people say, oh, I know what picture I would choose. They sometimes have an idea of an image that they remember of themselves when they were little. And I think that it really helps if you look at that and say, I'm the steward of this person's life. I'm the steward of this person's dreams. And for me, I started doing that kind of thing more and more for myself and saying, man, I am not it became a new kind of ambition. Instead of an ambition that was the world is going to pay attention to me. I don't care if they're not going to write me off saying she's too old. We're not going to listen to her recordings. I was mad about that. And I was like, the world's going to listen to me. I'm going to cram myself down their throats. And I changed my idea by saying, okay, I know what I really am trying to do is I'm going to reclaim the dreams of my childhood. I'm going to keep doing the things that mean the very, very most to me, the things that I was always setting out bravely to do. And I'm going to do them from a place of my inner child, my purest emotions. And maybe by doing that, I will feel satisfaction.
Yes, absolutely. So it makes complete sense that you would return to the songs that informed you at that time when you were in the fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll say that some of the songs on this new album, when I was writing one of them in particular, I really wrote it in 10 minutes. And I was laughing. I was sitting right here in this room. This is my office guest room space where one of my children can stay overnight if they want to. But most of the time, this room is my little room. I have my clothes in the closet here. It's my little space. I was sitting on this little single bed and I was writing down this ridiculously easy song. It was so easy to write. And I was writing and I was saying, oh, you can't say that. Oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that. It's just embarrassing. It was such a dumb, corny song. So sentimental.
Which song?
I couldn't believe I was saying it. And so I thought, don't have your Mr. Cool editor come out and say, that's not cool, Courtney. You're not being cool. I thought, no, just write it down. Who cares? Who cares? Maybe it's called Courtney's Dumb Song of the Day. Who cares what it's called? So I just wrote it down. And then a couple days later, I couldn't get it out of my mind. It was like of all these songs, I'd written like 30 songs for this new album. And some of them I have really labored. Some of the songs I have labored over, really worked hard on the lyrics and really pondered it. But this thing I wrote in 10 minutes kept coming to my mind. So I played it at one of my little outdoor performances. And after the performance, people were coming up and saying, what was that one? And I'm like, no, not that one.
Which one?
It's the one that says, here, I'll play it because I can't think. It's much easier to think of when I play, right? It's the one that starts like this. My love, we both know it's been good times and bad. You see, just the beginning is ridiculous. When I look into your eyes, I still see you shining.
Yeah.
And when I see you looking at me, I still see you smiling.
It's the same ethos that you would have when you were doing the creative writing teaching. You know, the advice that you were giving to your students, there's such a lovely connection between that and then what's present in that song, which is Trying Times for Love. That it really is an especially powerful one because of the vulnerability, because of the connection, because of the celebration of the shining in the eyes and the smiling, as you just highlighted. There's another song called Held in Love. Is it called Held in Love? Or the lyric? Love holds us. Yeah.
Love holds us.
So there's this recurring sense of being held by love throughout many songs on the record, particularly Love Holds Us and the one that we're discussing presently. Do you think that the context then of the pandemic enabled you to kind of connect with kind of a deeper aspect of yourself, that, you know, this loving aspect, this kind of caretaking aspect that has the desire and the capacity through the power of song and story to hold others in love and to realize I have the power to do this and I have the desire to do this and there is a need for this. Is there something about the pandemic context that enabled all of that to come together, or could you reflect a little bit more on the way in which that has all come together recently?
Well, you know, Simon, getting to talk to you is so helpful at this moment, because it's a really nice time, just as I'm going to put out this new album, to think about that very thing. How has my perspective changed? And I do think that last summer, for instance, there were fans who already knew my music who may have really loved a song like Stones of mine, or Tangled Web, another song that's from High Priestess and the Renegade that also has sort of an apologetic sadness and regret to it.
Yes.
And these were the people who were writing to me saying, you know, we love live music so much and we love you, and we've seen that you're willing to do these concerts. And this was before the vaccinations, but I had the virus.
Yes, I remember.
I had it in March. And so I felt a certain comfort level going to play these outdoor things. I was going to be far away from the people anyway. And I'd already been sick, you know, so I was willing to do it, where a lot of people last summer weren't willing to do things like that. And I think that really helped me get an idea that a person called Courtney YASMINEH is a certain type of performance to go and see, not better or worse, but unique. Yes. And that what I could bring to people certain people who would like this, who had this type of yearning, I could maybe bring something that would truly be uplifting to them.